I am actually very hyped about this game. I think it's already released. It looks so funny, dude.
No,
Yeah, because of the bare feet.
I don't know if I'll play it. I'm so entranced with Borderlands right now. I don't know if I can play it.
That's how I
My
like it.
addiction is being fed by Borderlands currently.
As someone who lives for the unexpected, unique, and downright weird, it only took about 5 seconds for the
Dude,
absolute
look at the sweat!
craziness of baby steps to steal my
Bro, you know that guy's got to be miserable in that. He's all wet. He's like sweating. He's sliding around in the dirt.
heart.
He has no clothes. Oh no!
The spiritual successor to pain-inducing cult classics, Quap and Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy.
Funny enough, this was from a different game. He got his idea from a different game that was like a pixelated one. That's where he got his idea from.
Who is also
And
one
it
of the
took
developers
off.
here, is a similarly exasperating physics-based walking simulator that asks you to control the most unwieldy human ever created as you push yourself through increasingly arduous
That looks
obstacles.
crazy. Oh no!
The result is one of the most hilariously infuriating journeys it has ever been my pleasure to rage through. With writing that consistently cracked me up,
It's blacker than the inside of a cow in there.
a story with more heart than I expected, and brilliant branching paths that let you choose your own level of anguish as you explore the dreamlike world, I had a hard time staying mad at this wonderfully bizarre odyssey, even in its most maddening moments.
Where are you headed?
Oh,
What the fuck? What the fuck is that? That's it. Is that? That's not even a mask. That's an actual head.
top.
You know there is nothing up there, right?
Yeah.
Like just about everything in Baby Steps, the story told here is eccentric, to say the very least.
What the fuck?
Play as Nate, a 35-year-old neckbeard who has sleepwalked through his entire life and suddenly finds himself on a hiking trip he's laughably unprepared for.
Nothing to be ashamed of. Everybody falls. Let's get you on your feet.
It's nice to meet you.
After inexplicably refusing to accept help from anyone as he fumbles around without so much as shoes on his feet,
Just feet, huh?
Yeah, just feet.
presumably because he avoids social interaction almost as much as he does cardio,
What
he
the
goes
hell?
toe-to-toe with formidable environmental hazards, all while wearing a dirty, stretched-out onesie that looks like he hasn't removed it in several years. But despite being one of the most immediately unlikable characters of all time, I found this sad sack growing on me in a big
He's so awkward in his conversations. I actually don't think he knows what to say.
way over time, as his awkwardness peels away to reveal an isolated and depressed softie I couldn't help but root for. The goofy characters you meet along the way are oddly compelling. They're all voiced by the same handful of people, delivering what I suspect is highly improvised dialogue that sort of meanders through each cutscene, which works shockingly well. For example, Jim, who tries to serve as Nate's onboarding guide, but is repeatedly rebuffed until he effectively becomes a bitter antagonist of sorts, never
Really?
failed to amuse me with each unwelcome appearance.
I might take that. That looks better.
You can't. It's too hard for you.
It's not that hard.
I cackled loud enough to annoy my neighbors twice in the first hour alone, and found myself peculiarly drawn to the lewd cast and absurdist story that unfolds. Granted, no small part of that is the fact that Baby Steps, which definitely appeals to my depraved sense of humor and lust for nonsense.
You're kind of sitting on my husband, though.
I'm so sorry.
What is
But
that?
even when its jokes don't quite land, it still won me over just by
Oh,
being
no!
so unlike all the humdrum hero's journey tales
No!
I've seen 1,000 times, instead favoring outlandish and unconventional ideas that kept me guessing every step
Bro,
of
look
the
at his
way.
hat.
You
Got a
know
little
the
froggy hat.
Not sure what your
the old, you know the
headphones?
no.
Donkey.
Of course, as a quite literal walking simulator, you spend the vast majority of the time on your own, just trying to put one foot in front of the other, which is way, way harder than it sounds. That's because instead of pressing one button to move forward, Baby Steps forces you to control each leg independently, often resulting in you face planting into the dirt like a 4-year-old operating a broken pair of stilts. If this doesn't sound particularly hard to you, guess again. as it took me several hours before I could walk on even slightly bumpy terrain without treating my face to a 3-course meal of rocks.
Oh! Bro, the way he throws his ass up in the air is great.
To a
He
3-course
just throws
meal
that thing
of
back,
rocks.
watch. Boom!
The counterintuitive magic of baby steps, however, is that what starts off feeling like insurmountably ass-backwards controls eventually becomes second nature.
This game reminds me a lot of Manual Samuel. It was a game that was released whenever I was really watching YouTube. I watched Mark play it, then I watched Jack play it, watched PewDiePie. So many people, dude.
And there's actually a ton of depth baked into Nate's awkward movements that reveals itself the longer you commit to it. For example, the pressure you apply when pulling each trigger determines the precise height you will raise the corresponding foot. And lifting one causes Nate to press against whatever's under the other with much greater force, something that can both cause you to slip or save you from a spill depending on the situation.
Oh!
By the end of my 20-hour voyage, I was carved out of
What is that? Bro, what the fuck is that? There's no way!
goddamn wood, scaling sheer walls with the dexterity and grace of a mountain goat trained in the ancient art of ninjutsu, and performing feats that would have seemed downright impossible mere hours earlier. Don't get me wrong, there were still plenty of times where I fell to the ground while just walking around on normal terrain, even as I neared the end of the 20 hours it took me to reach the credits, and it never stops feeling like a pain in the derriere just to pull off basic movement. But I also ended up developing a deep respect for the system that was given to me, which has so much nuance and so many tricks to learn that I felt like the only limit to what I could pull off was my own skill. For a hyper-competitive person like myself, this pulled me into an inescapable pursuit of mastery that kept me awake long into the night, cursing my creators as I tumbled to the ground for the 50th time in a row.
Yo, I ain't even gonna...
Most of the time in a row.
Did he curse?
Most of the time, the frustration I felt while trying to move my unwieldy avatar through mountain ranges and dark caves felt extremely harsh, but fair. And I was almost always...
You know what? That's what I was gonna say. You know what makes this even worse? When you're recording, you have to account for your camera overheating, you have to account for your camera battery dying, you have to account for the hours of work you're gonna have to put in after you make it. Well, this guy probably not. He's got an editor, but and then you have to account for a lot of things. It makes the stress like compact times 10 when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Learning something new about Nate's dumb body as I flailed around through convoluted puzzles. That said, there were also times where I felt not so much in control of my own success. For example, sometimes Nate would get caught on an object or move in some bizarre, unexpected way that would lose me 20 minutes of progress as I tumbled helplessly down a massive obstacle course I had just climbed. And these made for some of the most rage-inducing moments in my adventure.
Don't!
To be clear, these moments were very rare, and my failures were overwhelmingly a case of me just needing to get good. But when you're already getting sand kicked into your open eyes while everything is working as expected, feeling like you had no control over your own success even 1% of the time makes it hurt a lot more.
Oh, God.
Although baby steps can be incredibly frustrating to play and has challenges so grueling I regularly considered if I'd prefer to just tumble down a hill myself, it also deliberately makes the vast majority of these hurdles completely optional and almost always placed thoughtfully within view as you make your hike ever upwards. This meant that, although I often felt devastating pain at repeated failed attempts to, for example, climb to the top of a crumbling temple in the jungle, I couldn't really get too mad in the knowledge that I voluntarily subjected myself to that torment and could just as easily move on along the main path where the level of difficulty was much more manageable. It's actually an awesome structure because it allowed me to take on spicier paths when I was feeling up to it, then move on if I ever felt like I wasn't improving my skills by beating my head against the current trial, though I was almost always too stubborn to do so. I really appreciated this approach, which lets you pick your own level of suffering and grow at your own pace, and I always felt rewarded for taking the more extreme route by triggering a goofy cutscene or little story bit at the end. It also helps keep things fresh that each leg of your hike up the giant mountain is accompanied by a new, unique-looking area, from sandy deserts that make it even harder to get around as the ground moves beneath your feet, to a derelict mine with dark tunnels and splintered wood that require extreme precision to navigate. The environments run the gamut, and never stopped providing fresh
I feel like
ideas
you
throughout
wouldn't
my
be able
run.
to stay angry at this game because of the wacky physics. I feel like there's too many parts where you'd be laughing.
Like one part where I had to learn
I don't think you
how
could
to
stay angry at
delicately
this
ride
game.
a water turbine,
Oh,
or another where slippery frozen lakes forced me to master balance and intentional movement.
oh.
It's worth noting that none of this, from the levels themselves to the characters you meet, looks particularly good. In fact, Baby Steps is downright ugly most of the time, and has a surprising amount of pop-in for a game where all you do is walk really slowly. But with how unhinged everything else is, the lo-fi identical trees and blurry faces kinda work with its generally gross vibe.
But where's the bathroom? You're outside. Just go behind a bush.
I wasn't expecting one of my favorite games of 2025 to be about a socially awkward blob in a stained onesie with such poor motor skills that he ragdolls to the ground on the slightest of uneven surfaces. But here we are. Baby Steps is a triumphantly quirky physics game that
Is he gonna
asks
give
you
it a
to
10?
challenge
There's no
yourself,
way.
both with alluring hiking obstacles that had me screaming to the heavens,
Oh no! Oh, that's the worst!
and a shockingly unconventional story and characters that ended up feeling like family by the end. Despite centering itself around intentionally awkward controls, it has a deceptive level of depth that made me eager to master it, and I got incredibly lost in the sauce as I tried to best its most daunting challenges.
No!
If you like a good
There's so many clips of him trying to get that stupid fruit.
laugh, extreme difficulty, or just hate yourself, then I can't recommend Baby Steps enough.
Damn, they gave it a 9. That's what's up.
For more, check out our recent reviews of Hollow Knight
That
Silk
was
Song
good stuff, man. That was good stuff.